Welcome back to Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. Our producer Samantha's here, and I believe Samantha set this up, which was really, really cool. By the way, Samantha sets everything up.
yeah.
There you go.
All the interviews and I'm sure with some help with from Dustin.
From old Justin Dustin.
Man. Justin Dinkins.
It's not even a hard name.
I wrote down. Yeah.
Did you write Justin Dustin?
No, I wrote down
Dusty?
Dustin. I looked at it but I wrote down Boulevard, and then I looked at that, and then I was like, "Ah."
Can we start calling you Justy Dusty?
Sure, I guess.
You blew it.
Why does it happen to me?
It's
Like,
an easy one,
man.
too.
It's
Both of these names are super easy today.
No, I know, but like I'm looking at it, and then I said Justin, and then it says Dustin. I'm like,
It's fine.
Idiot.
You're fine. Do you
You
want me to cut
crush
it out?
on Justin Whitaker
No,
from.
yeah, I know it's ridiculous. But with us in studio, Jake Garland. He's the drummer of Memphis May Fire, and I appreciate you coming in today, man.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So
Thank God you got his name right.
Well, that's what I kept saying. It's an easy name.
Yeah.
Jake Garland.
Jake Garland.
Well, there is Jake Street right next to us.
Yeah, that is Jake
I
Street.
pronounce every easy name wrong.
Jacques Garland is here.
Well, we got Jake Garland and Justin Dinkins.
I like that a lot. Well, thanks for coming in, man. We appreciate it.
Of course, happy to be here.
So Jake, me and Daniel are UCF alumni, and I know that you played in the marching band at UCF, and even before that, like it's interesting you started because usually rock star drummers, they have the story of like I started playing when I was 2. And then I was playing on pots and pans, and then my parents got me a toy drum set. I was playing with that. It was like very young. But you started at like in your teens, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite story. It was funny. It was in, I guess I probably would have been 10 or 11. Started in the middle school that I went to. When you got into 6th grade, they had an option. You either had the wheel, which was like electives, and then like every other.
I remember the wheel.
We had that, yeah.
It's been a while. I can't remember the time span of it, but it was either like every week or few weeks. It was like you had shop, and then like home ec, and then
What middle school
something
did you go
else.
to?
Deltona.
Oh, no.
Oh, my
Volusia
God.
County.
All right.
Did you go to Deltona High?
I did. I graduated
You're a
Deltona
wolf.
High.
Nice.
Oh my
was
God,
a
I'm a
wolf.
bulldog. We're bitter enemies.
Oh no.
That's Deland and
you're
Deltona.
both drummers.
Oh my God, we are. Oh, Deland,
Really?
Deland and Deltona. Oh, we hated the
He's
wolves.
about 20 years younger than you, though.
Hey.
Hey, I'm an old bulldog.
At least not Pine Ridge, right?
Oh yeah.
When you
Stinko.
graduated, how old was Jake?
You may not have even been born.
It
Yeah.
could have been.
That's
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in '94.
Oh, okay.
I'm 07,
Okay. What year were you born, though?
89.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So you graduated when my wife graduated.
He was 5 years old when you graduated.
From Deltona?
I was
Do I know
I'm
her?
trying to remember. I was there when my wife was born.
Oh, man.
I watched. I helped the doctor.
Yeah. It's an awkward thing.
Yeah,
to
it
talk
was
about.
awkward. And I helped name her, which is kind of fun. That's a fun fact.
Yeah.
No, so anyways, about the wheel. So it was, you either had a choice to do the wheel elective or join band. And so I was like, yeah, music sounds cool. I've always, apparently when I was very, very young, I used to march around my house and bang on stuff. And
okay. So
my parents knew. I was like, okay, he's definitely going to be some sort of drummer. But I don't think I had realized it, because when I got into middle school, I was like, yeah, let's try band. And they had you kind of, you're like 10 years old, so it's not like you know what you want to do. So they kind of have you try a bunch of different stuff and have you kind of buzz into the different trumpet mouthpieces and stuff and see if you can do it. Or they
here's a reed to see if you can buzz your lips into this.
Or try and see if you could do like a paradiddle if they told you what it was. And I think I did. I was like, I want to try trumpet and drums. And I think I did both okay. And the teacher, Miss McKinney, who is someone I can thank for 90% of my musical career.
Oh, wow.
She was awesome. She was the one that came up to me and she was like, hey, we need percussionists. You did pretty good. You should play drums in case that helps.
Really?
Easier decision. And I was like, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll do drums. And then so I did percussion throughout middle school, and she was my teacher the whole time. And me and her were really close, and she helped teach me a lot of stuff.
Percussion is cool because I did that too. It's cool.
You start out on xylophone.
There's so many different things to play though, which is kind of cool. So while the flute girl just has her flute, I mean, you had your xylophone, your marimba, you had all the Latin percussion instruments, you had the trap set. If you were lucky, you got to play in jazz band. You had the bass drums and snare drums.
Well, I was in band too, but the drum kids were always the cool ones.
Yeah, we were, but you trumpet players.
I was a trumpet. Yeah. Me and then
he was in a ska band called the Heterosexual Lesbian.
For whatever reason, the trombone trumped the trumpet. And then it went down like saxophone and trumpet for whatever reason. Like nerdier kids played the saxophone. Yeah. Then it went to all the woodwinds and
we had a lot of the dumpier kids played the saxophone.
Yeah, you know what? We didn't.
Not trying to be mean. That's just facts.
So, did your music? Have you ever talked to your music teacher now and like on Facebook or whatever? Like, does she know that you're a famous rock star?
I haven't in a while, but I have. In high school we had multiple teachers. It was like one year this person, then the next person. The band program in high school kind of was all over the place, but the drumline there was luckily something that helped me, keep continuing and practicing. And I was like, I really want to keep doing this because previous drummers, I guess I'm trying to think of an exact year, but the few years before I entered 9th grade in high school, there was a lot of drummers that became really well known in like the marching band world. And there's one guy, Jeremy, that went on into something called like DCI, which is Drum Corps.
Drum Corps International, yeah.
And he did really well. And they would come in and be like, hey, I did this, like, kind of teach us and stuff like that. And so luckily, my years throughout high school, I had a lot of people coming in and showing me there's something that could come out of it. And I was like, whoa, like this is super cool.
Yeah, drumline
and watching
too.
them do it. And so I really pursued it. But the craziest thing, since you mentioned UCF too, is that Deltona is so small. And I'm actually surprised that I was able to learn what I did because our drumline in Deltona High School was, I think at the time of my senior year, was 2 snare drums, 1 tenor or quads players, and 4 bass drums. So like 7 people. And then when I went into UCF my freshman year, I was snare 10 out of 11, and then they had 6 tenors and about 8 bass drums, and then about a 10 cymbal player line. I think we had close to like 40 people in the drum line, and to me, I was just like, wow, I am a part of a way bigger picture here. Because I went from
6 people on the sidelines, right? Like you would have
and then the whole
or maybe 8 on the sidelines,
and the whole sideline era. And I went from drum captain of 7 people to part of a way bigger picture. Because before I was like just looking at the guy to the left of me and being like, hey, we have to play in sync, like me and the other snare player. And then when I'm a freshman in college, kind of nervous and really wanting to improve myself but also show that I can keep up with the other people there. It went from me trying to match with one person to me having to match with 10 other snare players. And so it really made me be like, okay, I got to make sure I got my stuff together right now. And, And I think that helped a lot. And I was also a music major. So at the same time, I was taking piano classes and singing classes and theory classes.
Oh, wow. So
it really helped me really improve.
So as a music major, I mean, that's a big deal, though, to go and dedicate your entire degree to that. Most people will do it as a minor. Most people will do it as like, something that they're, I don't know, they dabble in it. They take a few classes. But to major in music, my mom majored in music. And like, to me, it was always like, I wanted to do it, but she discouraged me from doing it just because it was very difficult for her. You know what I mean? Like job-wise, unless you were doing what you're doing or teaching music, For her, that's the only path she saw.
Yeah, and you forgot to mention the Deltona High School, the raccoon that played the triangle with the eye patch. You can't release him.
He's still there.
I thought that was you.
I can make the jokes since I lived in Deltona, so it's all fine.
So did I. I was an early adopter.
What years did you go to high school in Deltona? You said you graduated.
I did 07.
In
I
07? I was living in Deltona in 07, I think.
So I guess I would have been.
You may have driven by his school without your seatbelt. Acting stupid, being dumb Tom.
So did you get out right after you graduated? And did you live in Deltona around that time? Because they went through a rough patch in the recession. I don't know if you knew that. I lived there in the recession, and it was the apocalypse.
So my family moved to DeBerry when I think I was 4.
Okay.
I'd have to call my dad up right now and ask him about it, but I think it was around my 4th birthday. So basically, I came to Florida and started school. So from all I can remember, I've been here my whole life. But
yeah.
I lived in DeBerry in a neighborhood that was just developed, and so
I thought DeBerry was
luckily
fancy. From DeLand, I was like DeBerry's fancy.
But
it's a small
But at the time,
town.
there was no schools there, so I went to. I think I had in my area, I had the option to go to either Deltona or DeLand, but Deltona just seemed more easy because the middle school was right down the street from my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Went to Deltona, but the funniest part was that 2 years, and this could be totally wrong, but a couple years, I'll say, after I graduated, they built a brand new high school right down the street. I think it's called University High School in Orange City that everybody else in DeBerry used to go to, but it was good. But I definitely
guys
didn't.
Were wolves. Because we were bulldogs, and I was like, bulldogs stink.
I definitely didn't hate Deltona at all. It was fun. It was a good time. It had good teachers, and I didn't end up, on the street or something. Well, so they at least taught me.
Obviously,
some
you
good
were
stuff
inspired,
a little bit.
And the Deltona drumline always had respect. We were always struggling to try and be as good as they were, even I guess 20 years before you came along. But I also remember when we ran 8 snares, and that was a big deal at DeLand High.
We had more money,
and we were really reaching. We were reaching though, man. We were like, we had no business running that many drummers.
Well, Jake, how is it when you're in the marching band, you're learning how to play? You play snare.
Yeah.
What is it easy then to transition to a kit? Did your parents buy you a drum kit, and then because I imagine if you were the best snare player, could you easily transition into playing a kit, or is it? I mean, obviously you could play the snare, but then I'm just ignorant with drums, so I don't know. But how easy was it to go from learning traditional marching band music, and then obviously you play in a rock band, so learning the whole kit and putting it all together.
So that's kind of where I mentioned before about my middle school teacher, Miss McKinney, being so helpful to me. Is that so in 6th grade when I started just playing my first drum ever, in 7th grade, that's when they had a jazz band, and you at least had to be in 7th grade to kind of start getting on the drum set. And me and my best friend at the time, Renee, who is the other me and him were both the most influenced by percussion. We were I want to try and play everything. Some kids were just there because they're I don't want to do home ec. So
yeah. Not into it. Yeah.
But me and him were all about it. And so as soon as we started 7th grade, Miss McKinney would let us in early or after and be like, "There's the kit. Go start playing it. Learn how to do it." And then
she's awesome. I mean, what a
and
cool
even
teacher.
About getting a kit, I think it was in 8th grade. They had obviously tons of old crap in the back rooms and stuff, and she had seen me trying to learn how to play and doing we were doing the easy jazz band songs where the drum part was just just a basic thing, and we could manage it at 11 years old. But then she was like, I have a kit in the back room, you're taking it home and you're gonna keep it and you're gonna learn and stuff. And so I would set it up in my parents' bedroom and come home every day after school and burn a CD, which I feel like new people in this world right now are probably like, what the hell is that?
That's
like,
what you had to do so you could practice.
Kazaa and Napster and stuff. And
Share Bear.
I'd burn my CDs from, like old, like Green Day and Blink-182 and System of a Down and stuff, and start learning how to play the drums and stuff. So that was my first thing. And my parents were like, yeah, if you keep at this, then we'll eventually get you a drum set. But I think I kept that middle school kit even after I went into high school, and eventually brought it back to her and was like, thank you, like this meant a lot. My parents already got me a drum set because I kept at it and stuff like that. But when I first mentioned her and I said she helped a lot, like she was really the one that was like, you're gonna do this, I think you got this. And which is a pretty cool thing.
The fact that you still remember that, the fact that she let you in early, all of that is, I think, extremely important. I had a very similar, it's always nice when people want to foster something that you're interested in, and you don't hear that many stories. I'm sure they still happen.
Yeah, I don't have any stories from high school about any of my teachers ever doing
you
anything
weren't good
above
at
me.
anything.
I just sure, but
kidding.
You're flying under the radar the whole time.
I did, but
I'm
also
surprised you were even in band.
Yeah.
He's actually a really good musician. Here's the thing about Tom. Today's compliment day. I'm paying you a lot of compliments. If you give him any instrument and you just kind of show him, he's got good rhythm. He can pick. He picked up bass immediately. He does. Can't dance.
I want to see you play the drums.
He can. He could.
I play a
he
little.
can play drums.
He is so unorganized.
He
There's
can
no
play
way he
drums.
can do hand-foot
He can.
coordination.
He can do it.
A little bit, but
he can do the everybody's
He's also
favorite.
too
He can do the.
stiff.
He can do the. Dun, 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 ba-dum, ba-dum, dun, ba-dum,
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
but my teachers in high school, I'm like, not only do I think that you're not like passionate about my success, I think you actually hate us.
Well, maybe you, because you were D-head.
Not even me. No, I.
So you didn't have any inspiring teachers?
no.
Like, what was her name? I want to get it right.
Miss McKinney.
Miss McKinney.
Yeah.
So you
She
had
was
no
awesome.
Miss McKinney.
Miss McKinney turned you into a huge rock star.
She is a hit
none of my
maker.
te-
Miss McKinney
I think
is
my
a
teachers
hit maker.
wanted us to fail. They'd be like, "You guys are POSs."
She
I
is
hope
DJ
you
Khaled.
fail." Yeah.
We're the best.
So then you got into marching band at UCF. How long were you in the whole time? How long does marching band is it a?
It's just the
football.
first half of the year.
Yeah.
The first
It's
half.
So
football
it's from
season.
August to December.
And do you do it every season, or every year? You're
I
there?
didn't do it in college, remember, because I went to Flagler.
No, yeah.
No marching band there, so I was really
Really?
bummed. But I did do some DCI. I did.
Oh, nice.
I worked out and played with Magic when Magic was here, and then Suncoast Sound that was around here. But I never played. I just never had the time. I'd go and I'd work out, I'd train, play, and then eventually I dropped out of college. But then I went back at 38 and I finished my degree. So there's there's nothing. Look at that old drummer.
But when did Broadway start, Jake?
Even wait.
Wait,
That I guess would be in the next
His former
timeline. What?
band.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's the band before Memphis May Fire.
Okay.
Yeah. So to continue the timeline going into college, so I went to UCF as a music major. Started in I guess 07 through 08 it would have been, and then but kind of pursuing what I was going to get into about career-wise is, even though I started so early, even in college as a music major, I was like not sure that is what was going to happen. I wasn't in the mindset of I got to pursue music. This is going to be it. I just was.
Did you know what job you wanted other than performance?
No, I was
think that's
like,
what my mom was worried about,
I
yeah.
graduated high school and I was like, well, I'm good at music.
Sure.
Let's just at least start some classes, and if music doesn't work out, then I've already got some gen ed classes out of the way and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
But I was in a band at the time that I started in 10th grade in high school called Broadway that Dustin was just bringing up, and we had gone through member after member after member, which is probably why in some part of my heart I was like, oh, maybe this won't work out, because the members that started with me in 10th grade, none of those guys were in the band by the time we actually started touring professionally. And we had went through singer after guitar player after bass player after whoever.
But something must have been continuing to drive this band to success, because you said you did it professionally, so that's you, right?
Yeah.
That's something
that's a great test to have, man. That's a great test to have. It's like, oh, everybody's gone, we're still succeeding, but I'm still here.
It's something a lot of people don't talk about, and just how hard it is to get a group of like-minded people to work on something, especially when there's no money in it, and you're actually putting your time and your money into something, your passion project, especially for bands that start out, and to continue that, and then the touring, being together all the time. Like, it is hard to get a band off the ground just for the fact of human beings getting along with each other. Like, that's a difficult
no, for sure. I mean, when I was still in high school and before, so I'll preface it saying that, like I said, there was a lot of different members that were in and out of the band, and so the final lineup that actually did get signed, we did decently well for a little bit, but prior to that, one of the lineups that were there when I was still in high school, I was the youngest member of the band, and I was like 16 in junior high, and we were trying. We'd go, I think the first time we ever played out of state was like Valdosta, Georgia, in the middle of nowhere at some bar, and then we actually went up to Georgia and recorded an EP, and that cost money, and everybody else was working jobs to pay for it, and I had to be like, parents, I promise this might pay off. Can I have like $600 to
hit up Miss
put my fifth of this recording budget into doing an album? And I eventually had to work and pay that off, but they were nice enough to either believe in me or just get me out of the house. I don't know which one.
Good parents.
Which one they were trying to do, but they.
If
they
my
were
sons
great
ever
parents,
came to me asking for $600 for their, the rock band, I'll be like, I'm a statistics man. I'll be like, statistically impossible to be famous. Like, you'll never make it.
Don't lie, Tom. You're a pushover. You're instantly be like, here's $600.
Dream killer.
Well, I'm just saying. I'll be like, you'll never make it big.
Look at where he is, and he has two successful parents. I'm guessing two. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but not a broken home like most of us came from. But supportive parents and Miss McKinney. Everybody he's talking to is like,
believed in it.
Yeah, believed in him. So look at him now.
And
so year went by in UCF, and we got where I was saying our, I guess, quote, final lineup of who was in Broadway at the time, where we were writing new music and we're putting stuff out on MySpace. Back in the day.
A lot of people did that. That was huge.
And so around the end of my first year, and actually you guys are going to like this about how you're just talking about parents and Miss McKinney believing in me.
Yeah.
And that
I've never believing in you. We don't believe in you.
No. I've never really thought about this, but you guys make a great point, is that around the end of my first year, we had this small label reach out to us in my band Broadway and be like, hey, we like your guys' stuff. We want to sign you. They were a subsidiary of Sony.
There you go.
So it seemed pretty good. They had good distribution, and they were like, we want to sign you. We'll have you do a deal. We need you guys to go on tour this summer, which would have been after the first year of my year.
Sure.
And so I went to my two main college professors and the head of the drum department, and I said, hey, so my band just got an offer for a record deal. It's part of Sony. They want us to start touring this summer. I don't know if I can come back next semester. What do you think? And he was like, go for it. He's like, if you could go do it for a couple years, and if it fails, then we'll always let you back into the drum department. And
put
so
another
I was
one on
like,
the list.
okay,
You're just collecting allies, man.
If
My
I was
God.
a professor, I'd be like, don't do it. Impossible.
I guess
I'll be honest with you. I've had a lot of people.
I never thought about that.
My parents are really
I've had
good.
really supportive people in my life, which I think matters.
But it might be the vibe you give off, because don't you think, I'm going to judge you right now in front of you. Don't you think he comes off just like a really good person?
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about you, but I'm just saying, just from first
you.
impression, the way you talk, even somebody in the chat room said, this guy seems like a really good guy, carries himself well. I agree. I agree 100%. There's something, maybe you just attracted that.
What? Why is Dustin laughing? What are you going to say?
I was going to throw in you're okay.
Well, as I get
But
older,
also
though,
you're
I
jealous.
believe more in energy and what you put out and what you get back.
But that's nice. I mean,
I still make fun of it. Don't get me wrong. I make fun of all of that. But I think I actually do believe in it. And I think you put out a good vibe. Your parents put out a good vibe. Miss McKinney, the professors. So they're, it's all like-minded. It's like, you're a positive drum cat. You're good at it. And they're like, yeah, we support you 100%. If it doesn't work, come back. you can do this. You know, like that sounds awesome. Well, it's almost foolproof too.
Well, I'll give you a funny story that I've told in a couple other interviews, but it always is a really good fan favorite that I think you guys will like to hear. And my singer, it's his favorite story ever and still tells it 10 years later to this day is, so to continue the story of how I got from Broadway into Memphis May Fire is that 2 years of touring with Broadway, we did a tour with Memphis May Fire, and Broadway was kind of like I mentioned, we got signed to like kind of a smaller label. They had good distribution and stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot they could do for us. And so we did the one album that did well, but after that, it just was like, wasn't much else that was going to happen. And so we were wanting to continue, but, excuse me, unfortunately, we were kind of stuck in like a weird spot. And so 2 years later, we did this tour with Memphis May Fire, and their singer, or I guess I should say my singer now, but at the time, their singer, Maddie, we were playing, and he was like, dude, and I guess maybe you're right. Maybe I do put out a good vibe or something like that. But he was like, hey, I like you. You should be my drummer. And I was like, oh, haha. And so to kind of backtrack that too, like Broadway, like I just said, I was in since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
So it was like my baby. I really wanted to make Broadway happen so hard. I was like, I want to make it happen so bad and be the band that got big. And so Memphis was doing very well, and Maddie was like, you should be my drummer. And I was like, haha, like funny, like I got Broadway, like we're gonna do good. And in my head, you know, I knew I'm like, Broadway's kind of going down and Memphis is doing really well. And it was like a month-long tour, and every day he's like, Jake, you're my favorite drummer, even though they had a drummer.
I was about to say, I hope the other guy was standing there was like, hey, I was standing right behind him, like,
talk about
holding
him.
a birthday
He knows.
cake.
He was okay.
Yeah, we've passed that motion. He's a cool dude.
Sad Memphis Jerry.
Yeah.
Talk about him.
But
no, I don't know.
But yeah, he was like, you're my favorite drummer. You need to be my drummer. And I was like, haha, funny. And so, of course, after that tour, I worked at a studio in Castleberry that's no longer there, but they came in to do their next record there without that drummer. And I was like, is there some mastermind stuff going on here? And he's like, hey, we don't have our drummer anymore. Do you want to help on a record since you work here? And I'm like, I guess since I work here, I'll do it. And helped and like
you guys
helped
are already
in the
friends
stuff.
though. Yeah, I
and
see.
Then,
and
then afterwards, he's like, "Hey, so we're playing some shows in Texas next week, and we don't have a drummer.
I like this, Maddie.
You should come play those shows.
This dude
for
makes
us."
things happen.
Yeah. And I was like, "Fine, but I'll just play those shows." Went and played the shows, and then of course Broadway
knew you
wasn't
weren't gonna
doing
just
much
play
else.
those shows.
Oh, dude, he
Yeah.
That's why he loves this story, because he won.
Yeah.
He did it. He got me in, and of course, eventually I was like, all right, I'll start touring with you guys for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Broadway just faded out, and I just stayed in the band, which was a great career move. But
you were doing both, which is also kind of cool,
that
too.
story.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell the famous Broadway story with the van.
Oh, no, that's... We've
We're a
had...
different show.
That's all right. Yeah,
Broadway had a very bad van crash one time that was very interesting, but... not a happy story. But
Dustin,
everyone
tell the super sad, depressing one.
No.
Yeah, tell that one with vehicular homicide.
It had to do with a bad decision from our guitar player Jack at the time that now plays in Sleeping with Sirens, and he won't get mad at me for saying that. But
I was gonna say a lot of people. I'm looking at the Broadway lineup, and there's a couple people here that are in Sleeping with Sirens, right? Or at least were at some point.
Because what was your
So the original guitar player. So I'll go ahead and tell that quick story. So after, when I was saying there's lots of members in Broadway, one of the guitar players that we parted ways with basically started Sleeping with Sirens, which at the time their first album sounded very similar to Broadway, and his kind of move was to basically create a new band that was similar, and which ended up getting way bigger. And he then parted ways with the band again, and funny enough, Broadway's Jack that replaced that guy. So basically the old Broadway, when this one member left, he created Sleeping with Sirens. we got Jack to replace him. Then he toured with Broadway for a while, and then when that old guitar player parted ways with Sleeping with Sirens, Jack then went in to replace him, which couldn't have worked.
I just wanted to bring that up because Paul Russell, Smooth Nipples, was in Sleeping with Sirens, the original
You know Paul?
lineup. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Paul.
I love Smooth Nipples.
Really?
I just did all this just to roast Paul.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
All of
Paul. I love Paul.
I had no idea.
He's one of the OGs.
We love Paul.
Yeah.
He's one of our OG listeners. Like, that guy has been with our
That's
podcast.
so funny. I hope he's watching this right now.
When I found out he was in
will.
a legitimate rock band, I was like, what? Like, boom, boom, butt. I was like, I thought you were an accountant.
Well, that's because you always get drunk and then you start commenting on how smooth.
Well, he's not in the band anymore.
That's so
I know, but it's just he doesn't have the rock star.
Yeah.
Jake, when you like, if someone sees you on the street like, Bob Rockstar, like Smooth Nipples, I'm like,
well,
you work at the deli?
He's like a grown up now.
I know.
He's like a professional. He's like, I'm getting my
hung up the guitars.
I'm getting my fireplace installed. You know, I'm like, that's what.
He's a tech guy now. Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while, but Paul, I hope you're doing well. I miss
He's
you.
doing good.
He's crushing it. Well, you know what? If you ever decide to come back, we'll bring you both in here.
Nice.
And
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
do,
band stories.
And we'll bring in your band teacher. Bring everybody in.
I like that
yeah.
Twitch says Rockstar's rough nipples on the Twitch.
Oh, yeah. It's rough nipples, smooth nipples.
Is there?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all the Twitch right here.
Oh, dang.
Let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
we'll
Because I don't want to run out of time. We'll come
Yeah.
back, do like 10 more minutes.
Yeah, we'll come back because I want to talk about Memphis May Fire and just like I've always been fascinated with like current day, like how bands run, like the business side behind them, like what's different, because we're used to the 90s and the early 2000s, completely different than it is now.
We always had a guy. You had one guy. You had one guy that would control the band. The band was they're animals. They're just lunatics, right?
Yeah, you had one
and then you
manager.
had one guy, preferably like an older little man with a mustache.
Yeah, bald Jewish guy.
And usually his name is like Doc or something.
Dustin's like, why are you guys doing that?
And,
That's what I do.
and Doc is the one that like holds it all together.
Yeah.
He gets a call from the Marriott because he set fire to a candy machine.
Yeah. And then I was
you guys
curious-
are business people now. I feel like
and I'm also curious to like what is considered like a successful album, like sales wise, like that's all got to be changed now because it seems like it's so segmented now.
We'll pause. Okay,
here we go. There's so many
many
questions there.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back
Awesome.
with more A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan right after this.
Welcome back to Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. Our producer Samantha's here, and I think Butler just ran out to yell at the yard guy. Butler is so good.
He does that sometimes.
He's so good, and we don't ask him to do that because there's kind of this kitschiness of our studio not being a true radio station. We're not up on the fourth floor or anything. We do it out of a brick and mortar spot, but it's rough around the edges. Butler will get so mad. I'll see him charge out there like a mad dad, and he's like, "You go down there," and I'm like, "Whoa, easy there, man."
Jake Garland's in studio. He's drummer for Memphis May Fire. There's a couple things we want to promote to get off.
Let's do it.
Right off the bat. So, Dustin, do you want to hit it for Jake here?
I'm actually going to let Jake mess up all the dates.
No, so next date in Florida with Memphis May Fire is this festival, brand new, first year. It's called Disrupt Festival. It is going to be June 26th. In Tampa at the Mid-Florida Credit Union Amphitheater. It's us, Sleeping with Sirens, Circus Survive, Thrice, The Used. It's going to be awesome.
It's a really good lineup.
That is a great lineup.
And can you announce the other little bit of information you told me the other night, stage-wise?
I don't know if those are announced yet, but
okay,
I know we'll be playing midday somewhere.
There you go.
And
cool.
That'll be awesome. I am going to be hopefully playing drums downtown next Sunday on the 16th at Bullet Bar. Me and the owner there like to do these things where it's like a drummer versus DJ set where I set up my drums and play along with the DJ. And so if you needed a little night out, I'll be playing drums there, playing along to some hip-hop stuff.
Awesome.
And
Memphis May Fathers.
Memphis.
I like that.
And then Thursday too, Jake.
Oh yeah, Thursday at the same bar, Bullet Bar. We do it's a pretty diverse bar. So like certain nights will be hip hop music, some nights will be other music. But Thursdays, me and one of the bar managers like to host a night that we called I think we still call it Taking Back Thursdays, but
Taking Back Thursdays.
it's we play a lot of pop punk music all night instead of a lot of the hip hop that is around downtown.
Cool. Yeah,
so a lot of people that like to come, check out like kind of a chill night and not be in a huge crowd. I'll be playing music there. Come bother me. Tell me what you want me to play. And
Awesome.
Be there from 8 till 2 unless people don't want to go home.
Exactly. And then you guys have a meet and greet on the Disrupt tour.
Yes, we
so
do.
If you guys want to come and hang out with us.
That.
And we'll both
Dustin
be there.
will be there.
Yeah, I will be there.
He's going to TM it.
I will TM it.
Go to Disrupt with me.
Do you guys want to come?
Let's do a Young Man's Game.
It's a Wednesday afternoon.
Let's do a show called Young
Wednesday
Man's
at 1 p.m.
Game.
in
I
Tampa.
think you guys should come.
Yeah.
I already thought about doing it.
The name of the show will be called Young Man's Game, and we'll go there. We'll broadcast live. We'll walk around, and you can complain as much as you want.
So I get to tour manage you guys?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, Sam's got to come too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's bring everybody.
I'm the one that's going to know
Hey,
all the
we'll just-
bands. Tom
we'll-
won't know a damn person there.
I know them all.
No,
We'll just book you guys in between sets.
Yes.
And you
Live
can
podcast.
promote stuff and
That's fine.
and introduce everybody.
You guys don't know old
Will
young
you-
punk rock Tom Van.
Whatever.
You can one
You're
wheel.
getting it good.
You can ride your one wheel around the
No,
block.
that's-
I think
know.
we could put Tom a trumpet on one of the songs.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to play the word.
Oh.
Although I think
You have to dust off your. You used to have those long jinkos.
Oh my
Corduroy.
I
god.
think they were
Skank
called
into the
pipes.
beat.
I think
Yeah.
they were called
I used to
Jinko
love the
pipes.
Jenkos.
Yeah.
Tom would hold his trumpet down. He'd lean into the mic and he'd go. In your ska band, right?
I got to do something while they're
but
playing
come-
the trumpet.
Come if you want it. I think every day it starts at 1:30, I believe. I think doors will be at like 12:30 or 1.
Yeah.
And it's 2 different stages. The other bands I didn't know, it's like Trophy Eyes, Hyro the Hero, Juliet Sins, Annie
wow.
Black,
Thrice, Circus Survive.
Atreyu is not on the floor to date, unfortunately.
Story So Far.
Story So Far.
Warrior Strong.
These are all
Warrior
great
Strong.
bands. Yeah.
So it's
You
going to
guys
be a cool
should come.
tour.
Damn.
I would love to go
Come.
see all those bands.
We'll figure it out.
And most of them I like, but I have not seen because that kind of
Yeah.
falls between the years of getting married and now having a baby. And
It's definitely a lot of old school. Like, I'm stoked for it because
Yeah.
it's like some 41s on it too, but they're not on the floor to date, I believe. But
God, that
so
new,
it's like
those 2 new singles. I think they have 2 out.
it's great.
I was like, oh wow, these
but
are
a lot of
great.
the headliners they first announced were Atreyu, Sum 41, Thrice, Circus Survive, and The Used, and I'm like,
Yeah.
am I back in 2006? I'm
Yeah.
like so stoked right now. I'm
Like,
like,
The Used
my,
and Thrice I
my
love.
my high school self. I'm like, I'm on this tour. That's crazy.
yeah.
I can't wait.
That's
This is
gonna
awesome.
be crazy for you, and like it's always
That's got to be exciting, man.
Yeah.
It's like the sports stars go through this too, where like they the people they idolized in high school, all of a sudden they end up playing against.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know, like and it's all that's got to be so weird.
Well, you
like,
kind of
hear-
probably feel like that, right? I mean, all these years you listen to me as this like radio powerhouse, and then like now you're on a show with me, and I do all the heavy lifting, and you just kind of coast on my talent. I mean, it's got to make you feel good, right?
I was disappointed.
Oh,
I was like,
Yeah.
too much
Shorter than I thought.
Too much hype.
standing in a hole.
That's what my girlfriend said. She met me.
But
kidding.
how is that? Like, have you ever been probably not something to say publicly, but disappointed by any band that you grew up like really liking, and then you met them like on tour or
Oh, and it
something?
made
You're
you
like,
sad.
and
You
you're
don't have
like,
to name
"Ooh."
names.
That's
but
why I don't
Like-
want to. That's we have the
We have
no effects curse.
Yeah, but like me and Dan been huge fans of No Effects since we were in high school, and like we never want to. People are like, "Oh, why don't you interview them?"
I
We're
bought
like,
their book. I got the
"Eh."
tickets for the meet and greet. Then then their publicist got a hold of us and said I could come in early and actually meet them and get my book signed and everything. And I pussed out and I said, "Can you?"
Well, you're afraid Fat Mike was going to be
he's
a
gonna
D-head,
bully me and be mean to me. So I just told my wife, "Can you?" I had Andrea do this. I don't think I've ever told this. I had Andrea call Park Ave and tell them that I was sick and that could you get a
Oh my
could you get it
God.
signed for him? And then I hid in my bed with extreme anxiety.
So you called Shelly and said, "Hey."
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Oh, Shelly's gone now. Love you, Shelly.
I know,
Bye.
but back in the day, that
Yeah,
was
That's
yeah.
so funny.
That's exactly what happened.
or Mikey.
But-
yeah.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I've had a couple instances. I mean, everybody does. I mean, like I can even admit, when we started touring super heavily and like getting big into the tours and stuff, it's like it can sometimes get to your head because most of the time that happens, it's when you're younger. I mean, there's very few bands that are, older. I mean, I don't even know what you even call old these days, but
But they've been doing it for a long
in their
period of
adult
time now.
years that like just start getting bigger and stuff. Most of the time, I mean, look at the Motley Crue, like the Dirt video, the movie that just came out. It's like that's what happens, you know. People that are young, they get big, and all of a sudden they have money, and it goes to your head a little bit. Like I probably had a year or so when I probably thought I was like,
but that's natural,
super awesome. But what I was going to say,
you're younger, you're getting successful. Yeah. Like, what was the pinnacle of that? Like when you realized, like, oh man, like I've made it to my dream of being a rock star drummer. Like I'm sure you had. Was it like maybe a year?
It was probably, and actually, I think off air we talked about record sales and like how that's interesting now because it's just totally different now. But what I was going to say is 2014 when we put out our album Unconditional, it hit, we somehow like kind of got our peak when album sales started skyrocketing again, and people somehow are still buying music, and it might be part because of iTunes. I honestly don't even know like why it started happening. Now it's kind of going downhill again, but
and that was in 14?
In 14,
yeah.
and we had an album that sold a certain amount of records, and it peaked on that certain week number 4 overall on the top 200 charts. So like not rock charts, not pop charts. It was like the Billboard. It was literally like the Frozen soundtrack, Lady Gaga, Johnny Cash, and then Memphis May Fire, like number 4.
Wow,
that's huge.
And that will probably like never happen again because now it's just like. I mean, it could happen again. I shouldn't say it should never happen again, but it's so like
segmented.
It wasn't that was like, you know, Sleeping with Sirens, like all our buddies, we were landing top 10 records because people were buying records and iTunes had a thing. And then I think it started to happen when, you know, Apple Music and Spotify started being a thing, and they actually introduced streams into part of album sales. I forget what it is now, but it's like a certain amount of streams equals one sale.
Okay, yeah.
So that does help, but it's just, you know, I can honestly say it's like I haven't bought an album in a while because I have Apple Music.
Yeah.
And
people
so I can't hate it because I'm not going to be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I get it. It's definitely a different world of things. But that was the year that, because the previous record, we were like wondering, it was called Challenger. We were wondering how it would do, and I think it landed like number 18. And we were like, holy crap, we got a top 20 record.
Yeah, that's
and
still
so
huge,
when Unconditional came out, we were like, let's try and aim for top 10. That would be crazy. That would be like life changing. And then it got number 4, and we were like, never mind. I guess we got top 5.
You guys must have lost it.
And I still, so my rockstar moment is still, I have that plaque in my room, and I look at it, and it's up there.
That's awesome.
And it's like, you know, it's funny because it shows top 4, but then it also has like the individual aspects of it of, you know, it was number 1 on the rock records.
Right,
and like
right.
below that
they itemize it a little bit, yeah.
My Chemical Romance's like top hits record, which is unbelievable because now that they've been broken up for so long, if My Chemical Romance put out a new CD or anything else, they'd probably sell 500,000 copies because they're the biggest in the world. But it's funny to look at that and be like, how did we sell more records than My Chemical Romance? Like, there's no way that should ever happen.
And we are running out of time here.
I know.
So, like, if you have any...
Well, again, what is considered nowadays, like as of now, 2019, how many records is considered like a success nowadays? Where it's like if you sell X amount, or does no one even judge it by that anymore?
It honestly doesn't really matter, man. I mean, I've seen bands like, I won't give numbers, but it's like, you know, I've seen bands like Godsmack and Shinedown and stuff like that. Like we get emails about their record numbers and stuff like that, but we'll see a number that, you know, we're like, oh, okay, but you know, they're selling out 50,000 cap stadiums on their arena tours, and it's like, it definitely does not matter anymore. It's nowadays album sales are so unrealistic. It's like, you know,
and it's not directly correlated to success of the band anymore.
Yeah.
It's like they don't use album sales.
A band could sell 5,000 records first week and then sell 40,000 tickets at one show.
But that's
crazy.
This is something we were talking
We're
about
just like,
yesterday.
hey, could each of you just buy one record?
But
You
it
know,
has a
that-
lot to do with the community you foster too, with the Memphis May Fire like community, right? I mean, like the fans that really like you guys. I mean, there's got to be a reason they keep coming back, and then I guess it's up to you guys. And I know that we have to do it in our world. You have to foster that community and grow it, and that's how you survive now. Is just by being accessible. Do you guys have to stay accessible, or is there a certain level that you have to pull back, or how do you guys handle that?
Honestly, my answer to the music industry these days and any question is just like unknown.
Yeah.
We're all going at it, just trying to figure out what the next step is. I'll say one of our newest album, Broken, we kind of wrote a couple radio singles purposely to kind of try and branch out to get on more of like active rock radio stations.
Sure.
And it worked well. Our first single we put out called The Old Me was more of that alt rock stuff, and it went on to active radio and started on Octane on like Sirius XM, and then went on to start getting syndicated in like all the different rock radio stations around the country. And I think it hit like number 17 or 18 on like the active rock charts and stuff, which is something we've never done because we've always been a very, I shouldn't say very, but kind of a heavier metal band.
Yeah, you guys are, sure.
Got lots of screaming, and so it's crazy. The first time we put out a single that's mostly all singing does well at radio.
That's great.
And so that's just, some fans hate it. They're like, oh, wow, it's not heavy anymore. But it's just something to try and keep continuing. It's like, hey, if you want us to keep having the money to making music, we got to have a song that maybe helps us make a little money and stuff like that. But we love that song, and it's been good. So we'll play that on Disrupt if you want to come hear it.
Awesome.
And come out and hang out with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Tampa.
Again, Bullet Bar, June 16th. The June 26th is the Tampa show, correct?
And then Thursday, he's going to be DJing.
Thursday, I'll be there DJing if you want to come hang out and chat.
That's awesome.
Cool. And Jake, do you mind? We're going to end the radio broadcast, but I got two more questions for you. We'll just do on Twitch.
Yeah,
I love it.
If you want to hear the rest of the show, just check out the Twitch broadcast.
Oh, I'll put the whole broadcast on YouTube so everybody can relive it, because it's easier to consume there than sometimes it is even on Twitch. Like Twitch is great and all, but sometimes it's very hard to find stuff, and it might be like Samantha and I were having trouble with Twitch earlier today. I'll just send you to YouTube.
And one of these time constraints with terrestrial radio, so we'll end the terrestrial radio show. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, keep going.
Yeah, we'll start. So I was going to ask you, like you mentioned social media, and you mentioned some of your fans like mentioning, "Oh, I don't like this." Do you look at the comments, because it's a weird game?
You cannot
Never look, right?
like.
Oh, I do, by the way, and it's awesome.
It's unreal, and I don't feel bad even saying this like on social media. I guess we're streaming to Twitch.
Yeah.
But it's like the internet is just a cesspool of terrible stuff.
No,
and the
all
reason
negative.
is
It's all
the
negative.
reason is like, people want attention, and I get it. Like, it's just like being unpopular in school. Like, I wasn't super popular in school, and it's like people do weird stuff. They'll be a bully, or like, try and do some weird stuff to where
act out
in
to
some
where
way,
you
yeah.
want
Totally.
attention. And
This
so
guy.
it's like people
I
don't
knew
like
it.
being like talked badly to. So I know a lot of people really just want attention, and will post a comment being like, "Hey, you suck. Your new song sucks. Like, don't ever make music again."
Play the next album
in
or
hopes that we will reply
Yeah.
and be like, comment to them.
Yeah.
But
Or the people that
that's what
like
we
you,
call
yeah.
like internet trolls and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it's like the funniest thing is that like it's just become a thing like that, and I'm not gonna hate. It's like I hope all those people are doing okay, and it's like I know no one's really that.
Yeah, they don't even believe
They're not
it.
that crappy in person. They're just they're just hurting maybe, and
They just
having a bad day.
Yeah,
and
normally
it's whatever.
It's just projected
and
hurt.
we
yeah.
that's why we always try and have like a hopeful message, or something positive, just being like, hey man, like hope you're doing okay. There's people that will be like, hey, you suck, like go kill yourself, and we'll just be like, hey, we hope we hope
Thanks,
you're doing
Sam.
okay.
It's
But at the
yeah.
same time, too, with on the opposite side of being hopeful, yeah, like a lot of comments will be really bad, but what's funny is at first when all that starts happening, you got to be careful to read it because it can really put you down. But after a while,
Too much
it's
negativity.
almost comical because we'll have like our newest video that we just put out like a month or two ago already has over double what the views of our first music video had that we put out. So the Old Me, the one that I just said that was a good radio single, that's got a certain amount of views. This new song that we have out now that's circulating radio is called Heavy as a Weight. That music video we just put out like a month or two ago, and it's probably got like at least double, if not triple, the views on it. And it's even softer, and it has this rapper on it and stuff, and it's definitely different. And all the comments are just like, wow, this is weird. Like, we don't like it.
It's a great song.
But and yet it has like
The
2.5 million views in
Right.
in like a month and a half. And so we're like, well, clearly you guys can't hate it that bad if you keep replaying it over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
And real quick, you guys were talking about the whole album things. There was a transition period. I remember we used to have to do sound scans. And
What does that mean?
Sound scans.
yeah.
So on tour, I'd have to get from a merch guy and be like, how many albums we sell? Granted, we probably only sold 30. I would write 60. And I have to send it to basically a register it with like Billboard and BMG and all that stuff. And that's what they would put out your album sales. Everybody faked it on tour.
Okay, yeah. So you'd always
That's
you
like a
pump
known
the
thing
numbers.
that's been- yeah.
Okay.
Everybody pumped up the numbers. But there was a transition period where people were streaming, so album sales went down. And then so promoters were like, well, what's your album sales? I'm like, well, it's not that good, but my streams are X amount.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
didn't care. But now that's what everybody wants to go to.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like the whole system is learning. Like as it's changing, it's like we used to do these things the old way, and then all of a sudden like there's a new way, and there's a new way of judging how popular. You know, like we just read I think it was Swervy Jones was talking about the Instagram model that had like 2.6 million followers, and she was struggling to sell like 26 t-shirts. And it just goes to show you, it's like, okay, well, she has all these followers, but no one's engaged. No one gives a shit about what she's doing. Like,
Yeah,
don't care about her or what
Instagram screwed that up too. It's like that's a thing too. That so during a good point to speak about when I was just talking about that other album in 2014 that did so well for us, that was like the peak of social media too. Like that's when however many followers you had, you were getting that engagement. Like let's say I can't remember how many I had that back then.
I muted your mic for some reason.
I see how it is.
I'm sorry though.
For some reason, like let's guess maybe back then I had like 60, and this is a total guess, I'm just basing off like what I have now. I have like 74,000 followers on Instagram now, but like let's say 4 years ago it was like 50 or 60. Let's say 50,000 followers. I was getting like 5,000 to 6,000 likes on photos and like hundreds of comments. Now I have 73,000 followers, and I'll be lucky to get like 500 likes because like all the way they're doing their new algorithm and stuff.
It's all changed.
So it's like the reason why we probably sold more records back then is because a band account that had 200,000 followers posted a thing saying buy our new record, and probably 150,000 people saw that post. But now you post it and it's maybe
Gets
like
lost,
20,000 people
But
saw
also
that
the
post.
fact of you can't buy a vehicle with a CD player.
And you have to
Yeah.
buy
Yeah.
you have to buy Instagram publications now.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it's like you'll get a sponsored ad being like, hey, did you know that 70,000 people could be seeing your post, but only 500 are now? Pay us $25.
Yeah, they'll restrict how many people can see your post unless you pay
we'll
them.
show 20% of your followers your post. If you want to pay us this much, we'll show
It's
50% of your followers this post. And I'm like, how the hell are we supposed to promote our music if we gotta pay
Yeah.
to do it now?
And you're also like, what is real about any of these numbers? Like on Twitter, like I got 12,000 Twitter followers.
It
And
means nothing.
Yeah, and then I'll post, and then it'll get like 30 likes or whatever. Like 12,000 people saw this, and 30 people liked it.
Yeah.
Like, they know, and the same people come to me like, what does these numbers even mean? It's all a bunch of
Nothing.
bullshit.
I mean, I have 27,000 people following me on Instagram, and I'll post one picture, 27,000 likes.
It's weird. Then
weird.
You're the
you
perfect-
beat the
It's
system.
it's
You beat
very,
the
very
system.
You
And
are
sometimes it's
Instagram Jesus.
26,998, and I know at the end of the day I have 2 phone calls to make.
So the whole
If it were only that easy, right?
It's hard because
Steve, what's up, man? Why aren't you looking?
The internet's hard these days. It's
Well,
hard
it
being an
changes,
artist
yeah.
that depends on the internet.
and you're right. It's like most bands make their nut nowadays through touring and
That's the only way to make money.
Yeah.
then I think we talked to you.
Does merch help? Is that like?
yeah, that's part of
Yeah,
being
merch.
touring and
Basically,
Sorry, Tom.
we appreciate
no.
people that buy the records and stuff like that, but it's just not a lot of people anymore. So going on tour, coming out to our shows, buying a T-shirt, stuff
Or-
like
or
that
maybe
is
sharing a
basically
post.
what's
Since
Yeah.
Instagram is screwing you, I mean,
Yeah.
it's always nice
Have
if
your
you
fans share,
if you
yeah.
put up a thing saying, "Hey, I'm DJing at Bullet
sharing
Bar," and
stuff.
I go share. I mean, I've helped out.
Get a couple more people.
Dustin's
yeah.
the best at that.
I try to be better at it with everybody across the board. Like especially my performance friends.
don't ask Tom to do that. He's not going to do it.
He's actually pretty good. He's getting better.
Well,
he's getting better.
Have any bands dabbled, or this be considered corny, but have any bands dabbled into the fact that they have this huge audience that enjoys their music, but it's still a huge audience that they can market other products to and get paid by whatever? I mean, obviously you
Jake
have to
does
pick
it all the time.
Well, because think about
You
it.
mean, like other
we-
products in general?
our business is run by subscribers and advertisers, and we make a lot of money off of advertising. Not a lot, but
I was like, whoa,
enough.
buddy, how much you making?
Well, the
Don't tell
business
her.
itself, but we'll make a good amount based on our size, which is nowhere
Yeah.
close to like your band size, off of like advertising products. Now because we're doing like podcasts and talk radio, so it opens itself up to really anything. But for like a particular brand guitars or drums, or like it seems like just the companies will pay you lots of money to endorse products.
Oh, no, I just wish we could get that because like him getting a drum sponsorship, I'm sure is extremely easy. You're a great drummer. Like for me,
But
I
do they
want
pay?
this sweet Shure money.
Why, have you submitted for it?
Yeah, and a lot of times they say everybody submitted because remember, podcasts now are not like
the new cool
podcasts.
thing.
Podcast 5 years ago, podcast 10 years ago when we started this. This is our 10th year of doing podcasts.
What?
You'll know this. So remember we talked about endorsing products, stuff on social media, and you guys have enough followers, you guys could do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean they should.
Yeah,
they
but
should
what-
pay
so
you
where-
good money.
Yeah.
Like pay like here's $5,000
Yeah,
for
but
one post. Like,
sometimes
What I was gonna
kills
say-
the integrity of the band too. If like one
Yeah.
member doesn't like it.
What I was gonna say in the band world is like a couple of us have like different things with some brands that specifically like you're talking about. Say like
Ethica.
some brand.
You're a boar's head,
we
man.
get Ethica stuff, but like they'll be like, hey, here's some money to post something on Instagram. But specifically with the band, like you were talking about brand sponsorships, it's never like here's $10,000 to post about us. What a lot of times they'll do is they'll either do so behind us we have those like big backdrops that say our name and stuff like
nice.
that.
Yeah.
So some brands will pay you to put their logo on that so that people see it on stage, or specifically what we've done is like bus wraps. So when we have a big US tour that's like constantly in downtown cities, like say we're parked outside downtown Orlando or in Ybor
all
or in
the
West
big
Palm or
cities you're
Atlanta, a brand will like give us some, well, not usually give us some money, but at least pay for the wrap. But sometimes they can give you some money or help pay for the bus.
How much are we talking here?
To
A wrap is
not a
very
lot.
Tom,
A wrap,
yeah.
a wrap
A
usually
tour bus
a wrap,
wrap, it could be
a
like-
tour bus wrap usually costs
my
about like
uncle does it.
$10,000.
Yeah.
My uncle
Because
does it. He
remember,
does a great
it's
job.
not even producing the wrap and putting it on. It's the big deal of taking it off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So-
they're
Without
expensive.
destroying your vehicle.
So yeah, like the record label has done that before, but a lot of bands like I know Monster does it sometimes with their bands. They will give their band some money to then wrap their bus fully in Monster stuff, because then every day for the next 2 months they're parked in a downtown city with this basic
Smart.
Rockstar
massive
did it, too.
Monster
Yeah.
billboard. So that's a way that they can do it, as opposed to just being like, hey, post on social media. Because you think about giving a band a couple grand to wrap their bus for a month, and you imagine we arrive at a venue at like 11 a.m. and then we don't leave till 2 a.m. You got that bus parked on Orange Avenue for 15 hours. it's pretty good promotion.
Yeah,
If your
yeah, of
whole
course.
bus is wrapped in a giant like
100%.
green M
I was
or
gonna say
something like
we
that.
should be bumping a Rockstar energy drink too. trying to get that.
Well, what about
Yeah,
like
Rockstar's the
The best.
what about drum
this guy's
companies?
Good. This guy's good. He's got the
Doesn't
good.
got
Been in a long time.
yeah, Rocks. We're not endorsed by any of the energy drinks, but
Should be.
Rockstar is the
Are you a
sponsor
For the festival.
for
Disrupt
this
festival.
Disrupt
Oh,
Festival.
for
yeah,
Disrupt,
I have
yeah.
one out there. I do have one.
I
Let
did
it be
notice
known.
that
I have a Rockstar
Didn't they
out there.
weave the star into the logo for Disrupt? Right? Isn't it in there? In the branding?
I think it just says.
I can't remember.
I think it says Rockstar Presents, and then
I can
Disrupt
look
is-
right now.
For some reason,
it's
I
its
thought
own
it
font.
had a similar look. And
Can
I
you
was like,
bring it
that's
up,
pretty
Dan? Because
clever.
my
Oh yeah,
cell
it
phone
is. No, it's not in Disrupt, but it's.
It's
the
there it
star
is. Yeah,
there.
they kind of blended in there
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's
They
like
threw
you
it
can
in there,
kind
yeah.
of see
The
it in there,
star.
and I was like, that's pretty
Oh,
clever
right.
because
And
it
they used to
doesn't
sponsor-
disrupt the
Yeah, yeah.
logo.
They used to sponsor Mayhem Fest. That was their other thing.
Yes.
Let's see how I
I'm
did.
surprised. Do
I did pretty good. Yeah, there you go. You see it.
do any drum companies ever come to you and like, hey, I'll pay
Like
you to
cymbals or
play
drumsticks?
my drum kit?
He has some of the best sponsors. I'm not
So
gonna
I
lie.
have. So
I'm gonna be sad when he says this because as a
by the
drummer,
way-
he's gonna say all the good
no,
stuff that I can't
his,
afford.
His kit
Yeah.
endorsement is the guy owns it, and he is my favorite person to interact with. When I worked for Jake, he was responsive. He never said no. When I was like, "Hey, we're gonna go to Australia. Oh, I got a kit there. Cool, just take it." Sorry, guys.
yeah, so I have
love
really really good drum endorsements, and I'm really happy with them. But as far as them paying people, it's probably different nowadays. I mean, maybe like when you were Motley Crue going and giving like one kit to for free, and then they played the next 4 years in arenas for 1,000 days in a row. They probably paid them a little bit of money. But nowadays, it's like we're not touring. Bands aren't touring as much, and I do like to get a lot of new stuff often. So they don't pay me, but it is very expensive. I mean, I have a pretty big drum setup. I have, if I can count right now, 1, 2, 3,
Give
4,
give
five.
the
I have
specs to
8
Dan. He'll
I have
he'll
8
appreciate it.
8 different cymbals or 9 different cymbals on my kit, and they probably each cost about at least $300.
$300 a
each.
piece. Yeah, I was gonna say.
So
Yeah.
the fact that they're willing
Who's your cymbal
to
sponsor?
I'm a Zildjian guy.
yeah, nice.
Yeah. So the fact that they're willing to send me those as long as I give them the broken ones back, I'm like, that's a fair deal.
I mean, go,
Yeah.
I'm happy with
go
that.
through your
Yeah, yeah.
endorsements.
Yeah,
Go
go.
through
Let's
your
go. Let's run them.
endorsements.
Let's run them.
Yeah.
So
Who you
yeah,
got for sticks?
Zildjian, Vic Firth, and Remo.
Oh, you got Vic Firth.
And
Love
then
Vic Firth.
the kit, the
Kit,
beauty.
I've used Truth Drums for the longest time. They're big custom company from Portland.
Super custom, right? Like
I love them. Yeah, it's like Jeff.
till you see it.
I've been with them since 2009, even when I was in Broadway, and I've just been so close with the owner. And he's been doing his own thing. He actually owns this massive construction company in Portland now, and he's doing really well with it. And
he
so
could probably have more fun with his drums now.
he is.
Because he
That's
has
his thing.
Because
So
that day
he's-
job's
he's-
going well.
That's
he's-
when you do
yeah.
whatever
He's-
you
The
want.
he's
rich
kinda-
construction
yeah.
guy who
He's
puts a bunch
kinda-
of money into his hobby. That's
he's
everywhere.
kind of slowed down with like the aspect of trying to be like drums,
Yeah.
but he's like, I'll always be faithful to my longtime artists and stuff. So it's nice because they're wooden shells that a lot of people get from the same company. It's like DW, Tama, Pearl, Ludwig. They're all really good, but Jeff, the guy from Truth, always gets me exactly what I want. And it's like Remo, Zildjian, and Vic Firth are obviously like, top of the game.
Massive.
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying Truth isn't top of the game type of thing, but it's like, I'm sure I could try and go to switch to DW or something just to look cooler. But it's like, I've always stayed
Why?
with him because he's awesome. His drums sound good. And it's like,
And you have
he
that,
makes exactly
brass
what I
snare.
want. It's like, I'll be like, hey, I want a kit that's all maple, 8 plies, every drum, die-cast hoops, this color, this wrap, this hardware, this snare, and he's like, got you.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And I don't think I would ever have a reason to
I like that.
unless he tells me like, hey, I'm gonna stop making drums, I probably won't stop working with him.
Go through your specs real quick. I'm proud of that kit. It looks good.
I mean, I could probably just
I
I feel like specs on air won't make sense to
I
everybody.
know.
Dan
no,
knows.
I'll
Yeah.
geek out.
There's some
that's
drums
why I want
geeks.
to watch Dan.
Yeah.
But I can
I'll geek out. I want
show
to see
you
it.
a
Can I pull
photo.
it up on my computer?
Are you still
Yeah,
playing?
that's-
Are you still playing the brass snare?
Yeah, so I have a I got a bell brass. He made a bell brass snare for me a couple years ago.
Heavy.
That kind of
they're not loud at all.
Kind of replicates like the old Ludwig Black Beauties. Or not the Black Beauties, the Tama Bell Bronze ones, whatever.
I know
like
what you're talking about. Yeah.
What do they call? It wasn't the Black Beauty. It was the whatever the bell brass snares. But then I was using that for a while, and then he was like, "Hey, I just suddenly somehow stumbled upon this huge, massive amount of bell bronze," and he cast a shell for me that was 6.5 inches deep. He's like, "It's almost the same, but it's about 5 pounds heavier, and it's a lot snappier." And I was like, "Yep, throw some rims on it and send it to me."
Ask Jake about carrying it to the airport when we did Australia.
That's my kit now.
Oh my God, man!
There you go.
Holy moly, that's beautiful.
Do you have a huge following in Australia? Is that why you went down there to tour? Like, are there certain countries that you know that like you're like, oh, we're big in
we do
Argentina?
We do really well in England. We've only done South America once, and it was with Kill Switch Engage, so the shows were sick, but if we went by ourselves, I don't know how many people would come back, but I think we did pretty good there. Australia was great because they used to have this big festival called Soundwave, and the first year we did it, it was like us, 50 other bands, and then like on our stage it was like us, Anthrax, Slayer, Linkin Park, Blink-182, and Metallica, so the shows were extremely big, and they're awesome. So
like,
but then we've also done a tour with Dustin. He was our tour manager for the tour that we went with a band called Parkway Drive, who's basically the Metallica of
every
Australia.
album at least goes gold.
I like that.
They're actually at the time that we went there, they were in talks to have their song become the national anthem of the country.
Really?
That's not.
Oh my God!
They also have a music video where they're jumping out of airplanes and singing.
And they're the nicest. Actually, we never really answered the question
That's an aggressive
about
band too,
about
man. Like,
people
but they're
being
the sweetest people.
Are they?
about like crappy band members being, you know,
meeting a
douchebags.
band and being.
But we've been lucky to tour with. You were saying, you know,
I'm telling
bands
you,
you
it's
looked
the
up
energy
to.
you're putting out. He hasn't had a bad experience.
Bands to look up to. So, like, the past couple of years, we've done tours with, you know, Atreyu. We're about to do a tour again with them. We've done tours with Seven Dust, Kill Switch Engage, Parkway Drive, Metallica, Linkin Park.
You gonna roll through here with Atreyu?
And so they won't be on the Tampa one.
Oh, right.
Atlanta's their first.
I like that new record. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's great.
I think it's really fun, man.
But, like,
and
we've all
I get misty when they do the dad song at the end.
Well,
Yes.
Matt.
There's one song in the end,
very end,
where he pulled in a lot of
Yeah.
dads.
Yeah.
So you've got what? M Shadows, and then
Yeah.
isn't Aaron Gillespie on there? Isn't he?
I think he
I
is.
think it's
think
I forget, but
I think he's
It's
on there, but
good.
it's all new dads, and then they sing like a song. But it's not. It's kind of
yeah,
cheesy, but it's
Brandon wrote a lot of the songs on that record about his kids. Like
Yeah, it's
the
good.
one of their singles, "House of Gold," is about.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's basically about being, you know, stoked on life for his kids. Which is cool.
wealthy by family.
But yeah, so I've met a lot of, you know, they always say never meet your idols, but luckily somehow I've gotten very lucky, you know, meeting Brandon. I said breeding Mandan.
Don't
Brandon
Meeting
is my new
breeding
band.
How do you
Brandon.
feel,
I did
Tom?
it.
How do you feel
Meeting-
meeting one of your
Don't
idols?
worry, Tom.
Meeting
We played
Brandon.
festivals with Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake.
Mhm.
I know you were like, I don't care about
That's
this.
more his speed.
You're like, I don't care about this trade.
Hi everybody, you guys ready for the bear
But-
song?
Oh, where was
Takes
I?
his trumpet and he does that.
96.
Where was I actually?
God damn.
Where was I actually going with that? I forget before I.
No, just
It's fine.
meeting bands that you looked up to that were awesome people. You know,
Yeah,
you're just-
that we're not.
Oh, talking about.
We've been lucky that we've toured with
Australia
people
doing
toured people that are good. But
Yeah,
Australia,
doing those big shows. Like, actually, that first Soundwave we did, it was crazy. So Metallica headlined in like the first pre-production date. They were like, "Hey, Metallica's hosting a party in the catering area," and we were like, "Metallica, like their tour managers?" They're like, "No, the band." And I was like, I gotta see this. So I walked over
Skeptical,
and
I like
straight up, like Lars and James and Kirk are just like hanging in the middle, like kind of waiting for a public meet and greet. And I was like, still almost skeptical. And I went up to Lars and I was like,
they were holograms.
"Hey man, like, thanks for doing this festival and like hanging out and all that." And he's like, "Yeah, man, what's up? Like, great to meet you. Like, what band are you in and stuff?" And I was like, "Is this for real right now?" I was like, this is literally Metallica.
Would you like a jalapeno popper?
Yeah.
And
I'm
yeah,
just
they
gonna say,
literally
Tactical Hat is there. I've never got to see him.
Tactical's rad.
I know
they
he is
literally
rad. Good
were that cool.
That is cool.
And I was like, dude, after what, 40 years.
Yeah. You guys have been playing longer than I've been alive.
They're not touring. Yeah, literally, for sure. They're still happy to hang out with younger bands.
And you still put them on to this day. And I don't think
and
it's
that's the one
nostalgia.
time
They're
that I got
good.
to see Linkin Park too before Chester passed away too, and I got to watch them from side stage, which was
I think
awesome.
most people are fun. Like are awesome people to meet. Like
I
when
agree.
I did my first big I did AP awards in Cleveland, and I didn't work for Jake. I worked for another band, and next to us was Joan Jett and Slash sound checking, and I'm like, this is it. You know, I mean, this is Joan Jett and Slash.
Double
and they came
legends,
off stage,
yeah.
shaking everybody's hand, like they're super nice.
I have a theory, like when you have long-term success as a musician or any celebrity, like I think you kind of have to be a cool person. Like for the most part, there are some dickheads or whatever, but for the most part, it's like the reason you've had this so much success long-term is because you're pretty, you're a cool person, you're a nice person and stuff. Like, of course, because if you went for 20 years or 30 years or Metallica, that's many years of being a dickhead to everybody, like sooner or later, people just want to stop working with you. Be like, God damn, I don't want to hang out with them.
Exactly.
Like, so there's something to be said about just being a nice person. Like all the comedians that come in here, everybody's a nice person.
Yeah, it's funny because people ask us the same questions that we try to pull on you guys, and I don't think we've ever had a.
But it makes
we've
sense.
never
Of course
had an
it is.
altercation, and then I start to wonder maybe it is because they come here and we try to treat them with respect.
Yeah.
We try to make things nice for them. I try to wipe down headphones and microphones so everything's clean. I offer.
I
them
know one band that was dickheads.
Yeah, but
they don't count.
They won't
They
make
don't
it.
count.
I know that story. I know that story.
They don't count. I don't put them in the same
They'll
category.
probably never be successful because
No,
of
no,
that.
no.
Yeah.
Another good story. Speaking of
good job.
good
Yeah.
faith in other band members is so. Not our most recent record, but the one before that called This Light I Hold. The title track of it featured Jacoby from Papa Roach on it.
Oh, wow.
And, of course, in a lot of interviews, people are like, so how'd you get Jacoby from Papa Roach to be on a record? And our singer and guitar player went to, I think it was Revolver, Golden Gods, the award show.
Yeah.
So they just announced someone with Jacoby. It was like, oh, here now is Jacoby from Papa Roach and Kellen and Maddie from Memphis May Fire to announce a person, and they did it. And then apparently they went backstage, and Jacoby kind of nudged Maddie and was like, hey, I don't know if you know who I am, which was funny.
That whole move.
But he's like,
the worst
I don't
thing
know
to
if I don't know if you recognize me, but I know who you are, and I really appreciate your faith and that you believe in God, and I think it's awesome, and that's it.
Yeah, 'cause he didn't know
And
it-
Maddie was like, yes, of course I know who you are. Like, you're Jacoby from Papa Roach. And they started to talk.
But he wasn't always
And-
a Christian, Jacoby?
I don't know his full backstory. I know
Yeah.
he was a pretty rowdy dude
I
back
think he
in the
was
day.
because I met him at Earth Day Birthday 3 years ago. Remember when Taco asked me to help
Yeah.
sit in?
Oh.
And he was so nice.
He's still
And we interviewed him,
dude,
but he
you'd
looks
think,
crazy.
You'd think he was fully on drugs all the time because he's
Yeah.
every time we've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
him now,
Lot of energy.
he's been sober
He's
for
high
a
on
long.
life.
He's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
sober for a long time.
He was really nice.
and he's like, "Yo, dude, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm Jacoby,
yeah.
yeah, yo,
He's
let's
got
hang out, all
unlimited
that."
energy, yeah.
And we're like, "Yo,
Take a
you
breather.
good?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm good. We're killing it. We're on live. Life's sick." And we're like, "I love this guy right now."
Are you transitioning to the story about the AP awards with Maddie and him, right?
Well, no, I'm just saying that's how they met, and then basically Maddie was did a song and reached out to
awesome.
him and was like, "Hey, man, I think you'd be good for this song." And he, of course, was like, "Yeah, dude, I like it. I'm on it. Let's do it. Let's party." And it worked out, and then we did that song with him, and
That's awesome.
It was sick. Yeah, and then they did
You don't
the
have your
AP
normal
awards
appointment today,
together.
do you?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Shit.
We gotta
I-
get
Yeah,
out
I'm
of here.
sorry. Okay.
I just
and we got to
noticed
get them
that.
out of
Oh,
here.
good.
Paul wanted me to ask you about Finest Farewell. He says, do you remember Finest Farewell?
Oh no!
Oh, nipples, get out of here. You're
What does
screwing
that
Paul,
me.
is Paul on air right now?
No, he's
Is he
just
watching
texting
us?
me.
Or watching us?
He might be.
Paul,
Yeah,
wait.
so
He is at his accountant job.
nipples, you get crunching numbers.
Finest Farewell is my band before Broadway where I played guitar, and
It was
Paul
Paul's
in
very
it.
first band.
Yep,
that he was
and
in.
we have this guy Dustin that we
Not
know,
me.
not this Dustin, but this Dustin that lives in England.
Oh,
I
DJ
think
Dark
still.
Nasty. Yeah, Dustin DJ Dark
Hil-
Nasty.
Oh, I
really?
didn't know that.
Hildebrand.
Same guy,
Is
yeah.
that his name?
Yeah.
Dustin
Yeah, we know all
Hildebrand?
these
Wait,
guys.
What?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
him?
Yeah.
These are all guys that
They
now
did barbecue
write.
food
Yeah,
trucks.
it
They write
was Dustin.
parody
Oh,
songs
really?
for our
Yeah,
show.
It
same
was
guy.
Dustin,
We know
Paul,
all these guys.
this guy Matt,
You
Matt,
by far are the most successful.
I can't remember.
100
I
times.
can't remember Matt's. I can't remember Matt's last name, and then Ryan Knott was the drummer. And we play. The only show we really played was at the State Fair in Volusia County, and my parents were there on my mom's birthday, who she probably did not like coming out to the State Fair. And then I also decided to jump off stage with my guitar and then sit on my girlfriend's lap, and it was kind of lame.
I'm not gonna lie,
Nice.
Jake is a ripper on guitar.
There you go.
I'm not gonna lie. All right,
But,
Tom's
yeah,
gonna get
hey,
out of
Paul.
here.
Yeah, we got to get Tom
Guys,
out of here.
thanks so
Twitch,
much,
thank
Tom.
you guys, and we'll see you later.